So, how do you negotiate successfully in high stakes environments? Our guest today is Jeffrey Sanow. He is a veteran CIA intelligence officer and a security expert with a decorated career in critical global operations. His extensive tenure at the CIA and background as a social skills instructor has enabled him to be highly effective in communication skills, training others in complex subjects. And today, we're going to talk about the art of communication in high stakes environments and how to lead high achievers effectively, and also the fine line between respecting authority and doing what is ethically right. And maybe we'll talk a little bit about the CIA and that, depending on how much he's able to share with us. So I'm looking forward to a great conversation. Jeffrey, welcome to Leaders of Transformation.
Thank you. It's my great pleasure to be here, and I'll tell you whatever I can.
Yeah. Well,
I'm not shy
awesome.
about that.
Yeah, awesome. Well, there's since we scheduled this several months ago, there's of course all these changes happening now too. So maybe we'll dive in there. But first of all, let's talk about how you ended up at the CIA in the first place. I mean, you have your book and you talk a little bit about it in there. Maybe just give us what really drew you to that. I mean, that's a very unique vocation.
The short answer is adventure. Um, I grew up in the 70s. Parents are divorced, the usual nonsense that goes with divorces and stepchildren or stepbrothers and sisters, blah, blah, blah. And so at 18, I went to Ohio State University. That was only about 2 hours away from where I lived. After 2 years, I decided that wasn't quite far enough. I was standing in a bus stop, and I saw on Ohio State campus, and I saw a little advertisement for the Peace Corps. And, the office is right here. And literally the office was 100 feet away. I didn't make my class that I was on my way to, but I left with my application for the Peace Corps. And that was my first foray overseas. And as my father was fond of saying, an old saying from World War II, I believe, um, once Johnny gets to Gay Paris, you can't keep him down on the farm. So, no, the Peace Corps is nothing like the CIA or anything else. The Peace Corps is very much a mindset of its own. Um, Established by John Kennedy, as everybody knows, three principal roles. One, take American culture and deliver it to other people on a personal basis. Two, take American skills and deliver it to other people. I was an agriculture mechanic. And three, bring that culture back to the United States and share it with Americans. Those are the three founding principles. And I did all those. And if you know someone who's in their 20s or 30s or 40s and they're kind of wondering what to do with their life, take a look at the Peace Corps. You could do a lot worse. That much I can assure you.
Mm.
They don't demand a great deal of you. You kind of got to show up. But beyond that, they take good care of you. It's the federal government. They're not going to let you get washed away. They'll take good care of you, and you get unique opportunities. So anyway, that was my foray into international travel, international business. I did 2 years in North Africa and a year and a half in Central Africa. Went back to school in Texas because I didn't want to go back to Ohio because that cold wind that whistles between the buildings in wintertime was, no, my blood was much too
Yep.
thin.
Familiar with that. I'm from Toronto, so yeah,
There you
it
go.
blows up there
Yeah,
too.
that wind that comes off Lake Erie. No, thank you. So finished up my bachelor's and master's degree. Um, First job out of college was working at a turkey processing plant in Waco, Texas. After about the second day, I was pretty sure that this was not the job my mom wanted for me. Um, this was
Sounds
back in the day
exciting.
of, yeah, was that?
Sounds exciting.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. And every time the immigration and naturalization showed up, about two-thirds of our workforce didn't. So this was
Hmm.
back in the day, back in the Ronald Reagan era, 19, early to mid 80s. Anyway, um, so I applied and worked for a couple of different companies back overseas. I was in India for 3 years and working on irrigation equipment. I was in Greece for 2 years trying to sell latex glove manufacturing equipment. Greece is a fascinating country. Athens, I mean, we talk about the cradle of civilization. It is. And
Hmm.
once you've been able to walk some of those streets, you realize it really is. Um, Came back to the US, got a additional certification in telecommunications management. This was back when the internet was not quite a twinkle in Al Gore's eye, and went to work for a company that does control systems for pipelines. Pipeline control systems and telecommunication network control systems are virtually identical, simply different application of the same technology. So I worked throughout the Middle East. Um, Decided I was done doing that. Had had enough life in the Middle East. The Middle East, as I point out very clearly in my book, has some wonderful places and some less than wonderful places. In my book, I talk about Oman and how much I admire it. And boys my age, we all read Sinbad the Sailors. Girls didn't, because that wasn't the book for them. They were reading girls' books. Sinbad the Sailor was a boy's book, and I can assure you I read it more than once. But that Oman's where Sinbad sailed from. So at any rate,
Hmm.
decided to go ahead and see if I could get into the CIA. And I did. I was successful because I had foreign languages, foreign experience. And so I was actually pretty much the ideal candidate. And I worked predominantly in the field of counter-proliferation, preventing the spread of weapons of mass destruction. I mean, just in the news today, there was an article about the whatever of North Korea, Kim Jong, whatever his name is, launching a test missile again. And of course, you have Iran trying to develop missiles. And so weapons of mass destruction is a big deal for everybody. So at any rate, that's what I worked at. And then I retired in 2009 and went to Thailand with my now ex-wife and had a great time in Thailand for 3 years. And then Indonesia, and then that's where we separated. I came back to the US and my daughter was in Florida, so this is where I moved, bought a house. Then I went back overseas where I was head of intelligence and security for the US company building the US embassy in Islamabad, Pakistan, another garden spot of the world.
Hmm.
Uh, I was there for a year, and my job there was to help the construction workers understand that, yeah, you're not in Alabama anymore. You're in Pakistan, and so you got to act a little bit differently. You know, the baseball caps on backwards and the shorts on the weekend, that doesn't work there. Um, and I came back to the US, and then there was a lady involved that I met in my travels, and so I moved to Uganda. And the relationship with her didn't work out. However, my other wife, my second wife, not my other wife, my second wife is actually from Uganda. I met her there, and we've been married 4 years now. And I moved back here in January 2020. So
Congratulations.
it's a, I like to think that it's still a work in progress. Um, Much
Yeah.
of my family thought I was absolutely crazy, but that's okay. I had a great time. My kids had a great time. My youngest daughter just got done taking her daughter on a cruise to Greece and getting some of the same exposure that she had. So the reason I wrote my book is I don't think Americans get to see outside, to see across the water, if it, as it were,
Yeah.
very often or very well. And so I wanted to try and bring home some of what I saw. And it's not all compliments. I mean, I loved Oman, and that's obvious in the book. Um, Lebanon, not so much. Um, in the book, I compare Lebanon to Whitney Houston. She was
Yeah.
phenomenal, and her ending was sad, to say the least. Um, Lebanon's the same way. Lebanon at one point was called the Pearl of the Mediterranean. You had French, it was a French colony. You had French influence, you had North African Arab influence, you had Turkish influence, you had Persian influence, and it's a port city, so Beirut has lots of foreign influences. That tends to make really nice places. And
Hmm.
it did it for Muscat, not, excuse me, it did it for Beirut and Lebanon. And then 1980 80 showed up and the Civil War started, and they still have not recovered from it. And you can see Israel has been attacking various places where they're harboring, I forget if it's Hamas or Hezbollah, they're harboring bad guys. And Israel doesn't fool around.
Yeah.
So that's why in my book I compare Lebanon to Whitney Houston. Sad
Yeah.
ending. Hope that it's not the end of Lebanon. Let's hope that they can pull out of it here in the coming years because it really is a beautiful place. Lebanese women, by any definition, are the most beautiful women in the Middle East.
Hmm.
The food there is wonderful. The people are friendly. Again, because of the foreign influence, the
Yeah.
port influences. It's a great place, but unfortunately, it's in a tough spot right now. So that's what my book's about. And that's why I wrote my book. I want people to be able to see the upsides, some of the downsides, some of the experiences my now ex-wife had in places like India. I talk about some of the fun times she went through, and the feedback I've gotten on the book is that it's fairly entertaining and it does help people see what they're not going to see, whether you're in Tampa, Florida, Cleveland, Ohio, wherever, you're not going to see it.
Yeah. Well, we'll do a little plug for it. The Humanit, right? Did I say that right?
Human.
Humint for humanity, and that stands for human intelligence.
Correct.
So
Very
yeah.
good.
Yeah. Well, I mean, when I read it, I was like, wow, there's just so much richness in the stories. My brother actually went when he was in his late teens, 17, 18. I think he was 18, went to Saudi for 6 months. He was supposed to be there 2 years. And he went there for 6 months. Somebody had asked, my dad owned garage businesses. He worked with my dad. They were looking for a mechanic, somebody to run the operation over there. I mean, huge operation. And he went over there and he said, wow, this is like really wild. My mom wanted to send a Bible with him. I was like, that's not a good idea. So, there was that, but also like just, I mean, he said it was most beautiful. I mean, he learned to scuba dive and, all of that, but he said it was just wild the way that they do business and all of that. And why he came back was because the guy who had invited, as I understand the story, the guy who invited him over had been doing some funny business and was kind of like blaming it on him, which is not a good place. You don't want to be anywhere near there and accused of stealing or anything like that. So he wanted to keep all his fingers in his hands. So he came back. But yeah, it was just, he said this one quick story and then I digress. But
Sure.
this 15-year-old kid comes in and he's got a Ferrari Testarossa and he says, it's chugging. It's chugging. It doesn't run right. And my brother's like, he was a prince of some whatever. And,
Yep.
and
Yep.
my brother's like, Ferraris don't chug. So anyways, we takes it out into the desert with the kid. And all of a sudden the kid's like looking at him as he's driving. And he's like, oh, what had happened is he didn't know how to drive. They had money, so they buy the car. And he was starting from third gear. Now, how he even got it going at that point, but he wasn't using first gear or second gear. I was just going from third gear on. So my brother took it out, up to, what is it, 200, 250, whatever on the, in the desert, cleared out all the gunk and it was ready to go again. But he was like, what kind of place is this? Our 15-year-old gets a Ferrari Testarossa and doesn't know how to drive it. So
those are people with more money than sense.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, let's get back to
Sure.
talking about, there's a couple of things I wanted to bring out of your experience. You worked in, like you said, the Peace Corps, you worked in business, traditional business. You've got a lot of academic, accomplishments there, degrees and so forth. And of course, the CIA. What do you find is common and or different in the way that people lead and the way that successful leaders operate in those different environments? Is it different or is it the same?
It's largely the same. Of course, it's going to be unique to each situation and each type of environment that's going to cause it to, some of it to be, let's just say, polished a little bit differently. But the underlying fundamentals are largely the same. Leaders have to be able to communicate. I know when I took up my leadership role in the agency, my boss said to me, I needed to find how each guy that were or gal that worked for me wanted to communicate. And I can give you two just real quick stories on that. So I was in an office in Northern Virginia. I had officers deployed around the world that worked for me. Everything was done in email, cable traffic. We'll call it email because people don't know what cable traffic is. The email. So my boss at the time, or at the time, what I was doing when I would write my emails to my staff with whatever guidance or whatever, the first paragraph would typically be, "Hi, how you doing? How's the wife? How's the kids? Are they doing good in school?" Just a little bit of personal interaction so that the officer could feel that we were personally connected. And I did that with everybody. And then I had a Chinese lady who worked for me, who was deployed someplace in Asia. I don't even remember where. She came back after I'd been there about a year and she came into my office and she said, "Would you please stop doing that? You don't mean it. I know you don't mean it. It doesn't hurt my feelings that you don't mean it, but I have to spend time reading it. So please don't do that anymore." Okay. Again, you got to learn to communicate with each individual. And this lady was saying quite clearly how I could better communicate with her. So what am I going to do? Say no? No, of course I agreed with that. And things went on great. And then I had another officer, and this is the 180 degrees opposite type of incident. Um, he was ethnic Indian. He was based in Asia. Outstanding operations officer, really good. And he came back again after about a year, and he was in my office talking to me. And this is where I have to stick in an aside. When you case officer somebody, case officers use skills. We use manipulation skills. We might lie. We might exaggerate. We might flatter. Those are case officer skills because we're trying to manipulate somebody to do something. So I've been an officer for quite a while, and this gentleman came to see me. And after about 10 minutes in the conversation, I said, "You stop case officering me. And if you ever do it again, I will kill you." There were lots of F-bombs mixed in there. His jaw hit the floor. After about 10 seconds, he picked it up and closed his mouth, and the discussion continued. And we
Mm.
never had an issue. So, is that the appropriate way to communicate with everyone? Good grief, no. Would I have talked that way to the Chinese lady? Goodness, would I talk that way to a lady, period? Goodness, no. And I never spoke like that with any other officer. But that's what I needed to do with him to get his attention,
Hmm.
to listen to me, and to know that I was serious.
Hmm.
And it worked. And we went on and we had a great relationship because he needed to adjust how he was treating me. And I needed to persuade him to do that in very short order.
Yeah.
So, there are other incidents, of course, where again, you have to determine how will you talk to each individual because we're all individuals. I had another young lady, very attractive young lady, who was she was headquarters staff and she wanted to get into the operational program. And so she came into my office. I said, "Well, come on, let's talk about it a little bit." And she came into my office. And so then this could have caused me so much trouble, but we were friends. That's the good part. So I looked at the front of her shirt and said, "You really need to button another button if you're going to go to an interview." Because she was a very attractive woman. Okay, you got to button another button.
Yeah.
Because if you don't, you're going to irritate the women and you're going to distract the men. And you don't want either of those two things. And she took it exactly how it was intended.
Hmm.
And there were never any issues after that. I had another very talented young lady working for me. She was on her way to Saudi Arabia. your son could probably vouch for these kind of comments, but this would have been her first time to Saudi, and I'd been to the Middle East already extensively, including Saudi. So I went in the office and closed the door and said, "You need to follow the rules in Saudi Arabia." She'd gone to Dubai on one occasion, and she was an attractive young woman in a bikini at the swimming pool up on the roof of the hotel. Okay. There was a local guy who kept trying to cover her with a towel, and eventually she gave up and left, but not without raising a stink. Okay, you can't do that, Saudi Arabia. No, no,
No,
no,
you
no.
get sent home.
If
Stamp
you're lucky, that's
if
all
you're
you
lucky. Yeah.
sent home.
Yeah.
So, it goes back to how you have to have an individual relationship with each person that works for you.
Yeah.
And you have to be able to talk to each person in a way that they know, number one, you like and respect them.
Yeah.
And if you're delivering bad news, it might be bad news. I mean, what I was telling the lady, that wasn't really what she wanted to hear, but she really had to embrace, and she did.
Hmm.
Young gentleman who I got in his face, again, I had to get the message across. So the toughest part for a leader is to learn, how do you communicate with each individual? And each individual is going to be different. Now, you've got your bell curve. Okay, 80% of them are going to fall into this methodology, works just fine, emails or whatever, phone calls, whatever, but you're going to have your 10% outlier on each end. They still could be phenomenal employees, but the method of communication might need a little bit of refinement.
Yeah.
So that would be the biggest thing that I would focus on, is finding the best way to communicate with people as an individual.
Mm.
Do you have children, if you don't mind me
No.
asking? Okay, so children require an individual approach. My two daughters, one's left-handed, one's right-handed. That's where the similarities end. They have hands. Swear to God, they are different as night and day. And they'll acknowledge this. So how we treated them certainly had to evolve over time. It's the same with the workforce.
Yeah.
You know, your employees have to know that you like and respect them. You don't have to be best friends with them, but you have to like and respect them. So when you're delivering bad news, they realize it's not personal. It's just this report wasn't done properly, or who knows what. But you have to be a good communicator.
Yeah. One of my mentors said, you can say a lot of things if somebody knows that you care. And
Very good statement.
he was very blunt. And so sometimes the way it came across, it's like, wow. But I'm used to that. My dad was like that too, so I got used to that. It's interesting, yeah. Segue into negotiation and persuasion, and you mentioned like sometimes you need to lie, sometimes you need why, because you're looking to extract information, right,
Yes, ma'am.
from people, and so there's a lot that you learned in that, like in term your training and being out there in the field, and to do that, some of it, I don't know, what went on or whatever. I mean, like you have to lie to people and so forth, how that made you feel to do that, knowing that you need to do it. Maybe you can talk about that, but there's a lot of communication that's happening in there that we can learn from. And I would love to, because I'll be honest, I don't think I've had anybody on this show as of yet who's, I've had a couple of people think like that I've talked to and so forth about special, that are in and around special ops, but not anybody from the CIA specifically with doing what you did in that role, right, as a case officer. And so I'd love to hear and learn, like, what can we extract from that, which can help our listeners, our entrepreneurs, our leaders to be able to maybe read the room, and to understand what the outcome is and how to get there.
Being able to read the room is important. Being able to read how people are reacting to what you ask them to do, whether it's a one-to-one meeting or you're talking to the boardroom where you have 10 people sitting around a table, or you're talking to 300 employees. You have to be able to follow their body language.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things that I did when I took over a very large station in Northern Virginia, we had a large conference room. and a large oval table. So my first meeting, I went in there, I took the table, I had everybody pull the chairs out. Okay. Now take the table, put it against the wall. Okay. Now put the chairs in a circle. This is how we have operational discussions because the newest guy sitting there with no experience may have the idea that solves the problem we're talking about. So we are all on equal footing. And I really, really wanted to send that message. Yeah, I'd been around a while. I was a senior in one-star general equivalent, SAS1. But no, but that doesn't mean I'm perfect. I'm not godlike. They have to be able to come and talk to me. So the ability to read the room, the ability to speak to employees. I mean, I was in more than one challenging situation where the questions that I was asking was getting the right kind of response from the person I was trying to recruit that I didn't really want. And so sometimes you have to know how to backpedal. That's also part of reading the room. Not everyone's going to agree with everything that you say. So I think the biggest trick to communication, whether it's one to one, you and I are talking to each other, we're making eye contact as best as we can over the internet when it doesn't blink out on us. But we are communicating in a way that's sincere, honest, and open. That to me is one of the big rules for anybody taking over a position. Whether you are a new CEO, you're a new uh, branch chief or department head or what have you, you still have to be able to communicate with your people and they have to be able to talk to you. And one of the skills that we are not very good at in this country is listening because there's no college course on listening. You got speech courses, you got writing courses, you got reading courses, literature courses, but nobody ever teaches you how to listen. And okay, so maybe your mama said, "You listen to me or else, young man." Okay, I heard that more than once in my life. Um, but that's not what I'm talking about. We have to be able to learn to communicate, learn to listen. We have certainly in the agency, you have what are known as reloaders. Those are the people that when I stop while I'm talking, instead of listening, they're busy reloading for what their response is going to be
Yeah.
from what I just said. So they're not actually listening. And that to me is the other big skill we have to have. We have to be able to listen to what someone is telling us,
Hmm.
whether it's a junior new employee or someone that's been around forever, or your boss or the big top guy or whomever it is. We still have to be able to listen to them. And that's a skill that we don't master very well. It's something that develops over time. Um, in interpersonal relationships, how many wives have said to their husbands, "You never listen to me"? I heard that more than once in my life, let me tell you. So the communication piece is critical. It's two-way. You have to learn how to listen. That to me is going to be when I went into headquarters after all my years of experience, the first thing I did was I went around and I was the branch chief. I was chief of operations for a pretty big group. And I went around to each person and I said, "Tell me what you do. Tell me what you think I should do." And I let them talk because I needed to get a
Yeah.
sense of what they wanted, what they expected of me, and how I could help them. The one thing which is I'm happy to see is becoming more and more prevalent is a term called servant leadership.
Yeah.
And that is an important concept. It's not about who goes through the door first, but it's about who can help the staff the most, the best to meet their goals. And there's not a staff out there that will not repay that many times over. I had a lady working for me, and she came to see me and said, I was now chief of the group that was stopping shipments of weapons of mass destruction. She came to me and said, "We have some computers or computer boards coming from Asia, going to the Middle East. it's a bad idea. We got to stop it. But I don't think I can get to it. I think it's already gone. I don't think we're going to be able to stop it. And I knew this lady. I'd worked with her for a while by then, and I very politely and bluntly said, "You get the email out the door because we swing at every pitch." Again, these are different working philosophies. My philosophy that held me true was we swing at every pitch.
Yeah.
And so I said, "You get it out. If you need help getting it out, you come see me." And I will, because emails going out of the building had to go through a variety of people. If it gets stuck somewhere, you come see me, I'll unstick it. And she said, okay. And the next day, she came into my office and said, we got it. We caught it, I forget where, someplace in Asia, and we turned it around. She got an award for that. So it's about empowering people to fail. What if
Yeah.
she'd come to me and said, yeah, sorry, Chief, we couldn't find it. It got away. We didn't know. I had to empower her to come to me with that description also. And
Not
that's
to be afraid to come to you because of what you were going to do and how you were going to respond too.
that's right. Empowering people to fail is very
Yeah.
important. If we don't fail once in a while, we're not really trying our hardest.
Yeah.
And there are many organizations that, for any number of reasons, they abhor failure and they punish failure. The CIA, because of the nature of the work that they do, failure happens. That's just the nature of the beast. And particularly in the trying to prevent the movement of weapons of mass destruction, we don't catch them all. We do the best we can. We act as fast as we can. But every now and then one gets away. And so this lady was empowered to do everything she could to succeed, but she failed. I gave her a performance award. I mean, I forget how much, $500,000, something like that. She got a performance award for getting that out. Had she not gotten it out, I would have still put her in
Yeah.
because we have to reward it when people do their best, even when they fail.
Yeah.
Because we want people doing their best, no matter what the
It's a
circumstances
good
are. Like I
lesson.
said,
Yeah.
you swing at every pitch. You can have
Yeah.
strikeouts? Of course you are. You can have home runs? You bet. And that's what we're going for. Because it's not a 9 inning game that we're playing where I was. It's a
Yeah.
lifelong game.
Yeah. I love this. This is great. There's something else that came up as you were talking. I was thinking about this idea of taking advantage of the fact that you have experience in this area. Is when you were talking about reading the room, body language, listening, all of that, which is so relevant in what you did and also relevant that we can apply today as leaders. What about, or what are some telltale signs of somebody that's actually uh, sabotaging the organization? Because you got to know who those people are. We're talking about the ones that are intentionally wanting to do well and so forth. But sometimes there are people in the organization that are actively disengaged and or that are sabotaging for whatever reason, resentful of whatever, and maybe that was because they didn't experience great leadership. Could be a lot of reasons. What are some of the things that leaders need to look out for? Like they've got to, they want to move forward. They've got their vision. They've got, what they want to accomplish. And they're sitting in the room and everybody's like, yep, cordial hypocrisy. Oh, sure, that sounds great. And then they're like, guy's an idiot. We're never going to do that. How do
It's
you
called the slow
recognize them?
roll. It's
Yeah.
called the slow roll. And you recognize them in the beginning by paying attention to their output. What are they actually doing? And again, output's going to vary depending on the industry that you're in.
Yeah.
In the industry that I was in, output could be what kind of operations are they supporting? How successful are those operations? There was more than one individual that worked for me that I called back to my office and said, you are obviously not happy in this organization because you're not doing anything. So you can either do something or we can find someplace else for you. The beauty of the agency is once you get through all the security clearances, they have a job for everybody, anybody. You want to build furniture? They custom make furniture for people like me. You want to be a security guard? They got a security force. Whatever you want, really and truly, they have a job for just about everybody once you get to the clearances. So the first thing you look at is their output. What are they actually doing? But this is where you have to, as a leader, be engaged. You have to be able to go around and see what this person is doing, what that person is doing. There's more than one person that reads a newspaper in the agency, and those people are not hard to spot. You have to listen to what other people are saying. And there's nothing really wrong. Again, you got your middle managers, and then you got your working level folks. Then that's what we're talking about. The working level ones are predominantly the ones that are going to be trying to do harm. But there's people that have been around long enough in any organization that if you said, "Yeah, what can you tell me about Joe? He doesn't seem happy or terribly productive. Is there something going on?" And most of the time they'll say, "Let's go in your office. We'll talk about Joe." I had a talented young man that worked for me, and he had vision issues. He'd had LASIX on, this was a long time ago when LASIX was just coming out. He'd had LASIX on both eyes, but it only took on one eye. So imagine this eye works, but this eye doesn't. What's that? That's going to give you a constant headache. I mean, you're going to be miserable. And so there were some people, some of the middle managers came to me and complained about this guy. And so I went and talked to him. I said, because I knew him from before as well, and he was a reasonably good guy. And I said, "So tell me what's going on." "Well, I got this problem with my vision, et cetera, et cetera. I'm getting LASIX redone in 3 weeks. Okay. So I went back to the people that were complaining, and I said, just shut up and color. Let him do what he's doing. Support him as best you can. He's got some things going on right now that are personal, that are medical, and we're not going to talk about them. But you're going to take my word for it that he's fine. Just cut him some slack." And they did.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
This is where the leader has to listen. And we talked about it already, has to listen. And so people have to be able to come to him and say, "Yeah, there's a possible problem here. I would much rather deal with a possible problem than a full-blown one."
Yes.
So, again, this young man, again, he did a great job, and he'd had a variety of issues. I think he was going through the training program to be an operations officer when he broke his arm, and that pulled him out of the training because it was at the very end when doing what they call the final problem. And so then he couldn't finish the training, but he didn't fail because he was a bad officer. He failed because he broke his arm. Okay, how do we get him moved back in? So between his arm and his eye, he had some things going on. And so
S-
leaders, more than supervisors, leaders need to be able to figure out and help the people that are there for all the right reasons, even though everything may be going sideways.
Yeah,
And
hearing that seek to understand. Like
yes,
there's a level of care there, curiosity versus criticism in terms of you're not or I'm hearing something, so then you're attacking somebody where they now go on the defense and it makes the whole situation worse. What I heard in all of what you just shared, that story, is that you got curious, you asked somebody else what's going on, they had enough trust in you to be able to actually share with you safely, and openly share. And then to be able to share that curiosity with, and that care for him to bring him around. That's leadership, And as obvious as that sounds, doesn't always happen. I've seen
yeah,
it where it doesn't. They fire, they're like, "You're not doing it, you're not committed." And it's like, are you kidding? That person you just fired? They're working overtime for you, working weekends and evenings for you, you know, they're exhausted. That's what the problem is here because you don't give them a break, So, yeah.
yes, ma'am. I'm familiar with that kind of work schedule, and as I was fortunate uh, because I think I was a pretty good leader. I followed the mantra, you got to take care of your people. That's just, if you don't, you're toast. If you do, chances are things are going to go your way. No guarantees, but chances are they're going to go your way. And I had a reasonably good reputation with my staff. They could come to me for anything. I had no biases, no prejudices. I don't really care. I don't care who you sleep with. I don't care what color your skin is. My first wife was white. My current one is Ugandan, so she's as black as night. Yeah, I don't care and I don't care. That's how I was raised. So people have to be able to come to a leader or a manager and say, I'm having this problem. I don't like this. This is what's causing me conflict. And not all leaders will do that. A more senior leader is going to look for that in his more junior managers. I had a very good young man working for me. Again, we were tracking shipments of weapons of mass destruction related material, and he was working for me. Then he decided to go to the farm to go through the operations training part. And after about 2 or 3 weeks, he came back. The training program is months long. I forget, 5 or 6. It is not easy training as you would expect. And he came back and he talked to his branch chief, and his branch chief is a former Marine something whose response was, "You get back down to the farm and you toughen up." Okay, wrong response. So the young man came to see me and he's like, "Yeah, I don't think I want to do that. I think I want to come back here." "You want to come back here? Really? Let me clean your desk for you, young man. Come on back. Have I got a job?" Because he was really good at his job. He wasn't happy going through that. Believe me, being a case officer is not for everybody. Come on back. You got a job right here at your old desk. Come on back and work for me some more. And he did. And he was happy. And I didn't keep up with him once I'd moved on, but a couple times I heard that he had moved up the ranks to a branch chief or deputy, something, some kind of leadership position. Good. So
That's that
leader,
freedom to fail. Whatever
absolutely. Again,
failure, what you can. It's not really failure. It's just knowing what's good for you and what's not. But I mean, people might consider that. Oh, I tried it and didn't work out. But the freedom
okay.
to actually just pivot. Yeah,
Freedom to
it's good.
pivot, freedom to say this isn't my gig. I don't really like
Mm-hmm.
doing this. Can I do something else? Okay. So let's find out what you're good at. Let's focus
Yeah.
on what you really like doing and what you're good at. As I said, inside the agency, once you get through the security clearances, they have a job for everybody. And this young man ended up being successful at his job. And we haven't really talked about why I was in the agency. The other part was to serve the American people. Notice I didn't say the American government. I said the American people. So he was serving the American people, and it was my job as a leader to cultivate people that could continue and contribute to that.
Mm-hmm.
That's what they were. That's what I viewed my job as. How can I take care of this guy? What
Yeah.
does he need to do his job? When people came to work for me, I always interviewed all the new folks came into my division, and I said, number one, you have to work hard, and number two, you have to have a good sense of humor. If you work hard and you don't have a good sense of humor, you're a grouch and nobody wants to work with you. If you have a good sense of humor but you don't work hard, you're a clown and nobody wants to work with you. You
That's
work
good.
hard, have a good sense of humor. I'll take care of everything else. I'll get you the training you need, I'll get you the resources you need. But those are the two things you have to do. Work hard, good sense of humor, and everything will happen from that. And I think that applies in any industry.
Yeah,
If you can
it's
do
true.
those and you have a management team that recognizes your skill set and that you're trying hard and effort's got to count for something, that they will then respond to that. And most will.
Yeah. Well, there's so much more that we could talk about here as we wrap up. I'd be kind of remiss not to ask you about what your thoughts are on all the latest. The CIA is going through a lot of changes since Trump has been reelected. So, what are your thoughts on all of that? And are good changes? Where do you see it? Where do you see it going from here?
I will say this. The rank and file that work inside that building are the best this country has to offer.
Mm.
They are smart, they are educated, they are dedicated, and they are talented. The management that is put in place by any president
Hmm.
is subject to change.
Hmm.
And while certainly the DNI and the DCI, the Director of National Intelligence and the Director of Central Intelligence, have an impact, most of what they do is at the policy level. It doesn't impact too much at the working class level. Now, I say that, and yet under Jimmy Carter, I think, was it Carter? That was do more with less. No, we're not going to do that's a stupid thing to say. They wanted us to do more. No, that's stupid. So, there have been some awesome directors of Central Intelligence. There have been some not so often awesome ones. Brennan comes to mind under the not so awesome category. Um, but the working level,
Hmm.
the GS, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15s even, those people are the best that this country has to offer. Their leadership changes. I've had really good leaders. I've had not such good leaders. And that's just the nature of the beast. It's the same in General Motors or any other big industry.
Anything. Yeah.
So I think
Mm.
it's important for people to know that, and I've said it twice now, the rank and file are the best this country has to offer. Leadership, Tulsi Gabbard with her little white thing. I mean, yeah, okay, whatever. She's not going to have a significant impact
Mm.
on working level folks, generally speaking. Now, if they come out with different crazy policies, yeah, that could be a problem. But I don't think that's what's going to happen under this administration.
Hmm.
I think under this administration, under Tulsi Gabbard, and I forget the name of the guy who's the chief, the director of Central Intelligence, his name escapes me right now. But they're not going to put in place stupid policies. And I just don't think they will. I think that they're going to try and put that if they want to make changes, they'll try and do it smart. And they have every right to make changes. I don't deny that at all, that this is what the American people voted for, and it kind of flows downhill.
Hmm.
But the rank and file, they're just
Mm.
phenomenal. I mean, I got in the office every day at 5:30 in the morning, and that young kid I told you about before that came back, he was usually there before me, especially if we had something active going on. And so I wouldn't go to my office first. I'd go to his office and say, so what do we got? And, I worked anywhere from 10 to 12 hours a day. I'm not trying to brag. I'm just saying, and I'm not the only one. Lots and lots of folks do, because that's kind of what the job demands. It's a very rewarding job and it's a very fun job. So again, the working class, they do great work. Truly, they do God's work
Mm.
and they protect
Mm.
this country.
Yeah. Well, and that's the mission. It's mission driven.
Yes, ma'am.
So yeah, yeah, and something we can learn about in other organizations that you know unfortunately profit and people just kind of go to work to make a paycheck. But when you go to do that, it's you
Trust me,
know
the paycheck isn't really there. It's
yeah,
enough. Don't get me wrong. They're
yeah,
not
but
starving.
it's you don't go there for that reason, and
No,
so
ma'am.
yeah,
No,
so
ma'am,
you do
not at
get
all.
the best. That's awesome. Well, Jeffrey, thank you. There's so much more we could talk about, I'm sure. You have a book. So you have your book
Yes, ma'am.
out. You've got your website, jeffreysanow.com. We'll make sure that's in the show notes. Nowadays, you're speaking, you're traveling, you're promoting your book.
And I'm working in security and private investigations.
Okay.
Oh, one thing I want to, oh, you already said what human stood for. Okay. Yeah, because you read that in my book, huh?
I did. I did. I was like, human. What does that mean?
That's why I define it early on, like in the
Yeah.
first paragraph, because most people don't know what that means. But
Yeah.
yeah, no, I'm promoting my book. I'm trying to do more and more public speaking. I think I have a good message on leadership. I have a positive message.
Hmm.
on leadership. There's lots that we can do and learn and grow into. And when I'm not doing that, I'm doing security one way or the other. I'm going to Mar-a-Lago the end of this week. I'll be down there for the Lincoln Day event.
Nice.
President Trump will be there, I've been told. I'm not sure if I'll be able to shake his hand or not, but that's okay. It's all good.
So, what is your favorite thing? So, if somebody's out there listening and considering, maybe let's say they hire speakers for a conference, whatever, what's your favorite topic title?
The art of persuasion in a high risk environment.
Got it.
Uh, let's face it, persuading someone to give you national secrets is the very definition of a high risk environment.
Mm-hmm.
So, what has to be in place to persuade those people? Now, you don't have to be in a high risk environment to develop good persuasion skills.
Right.
You can just be in a good business environment. You still need to persuade
Yeah.
employees. We talked about employees, they're not all on the same level. They've got that bell curve. You got
Mm-hmm.
to get those outliers to join the rest of the group because they're going to contribute, and you don't know what they'll be able to contribute.
Yeah.
You don't know what the newest employee can contribute, who knows absolutely nothing about the business, but he saw something on the internet because that's his age. And so you have to be able to listen to them as well.
Yeah. So, what did I not ask, or what did we not talk about that you think would be meaningful, or that I don't even know to ask?
Um, I'm pretty sure we touched on the fact that the Peace Corps is a great way to get to see Gay Perry, if I can put it that way. And the agency is full of wonderful people, and I want to thank the American taxpayer for paying their taxes and allowing me to have a great last 5 years and enjoy serving the American people. And I really believe that good leadership is servant leadership. It's about serving the people that work for you. It's not about the leader. It's not about fame or fortune. It's about serving the people.
Amen. Amen. Well, thank you so much, Jeffrey. Appreciate you being here, and I found it fascinating. I love hearing about it, and I sure love Jason Bourne and all those movies. So I'm like, oh, this is great. So
The
when I saw,
quick story on
yeah,
Jason Bourne, man. Yeah, you brought that up. I told my sister I retired. She didn't know who I was working for. And so I told her. And she goes, "You mean like Jason Bourne?" Yes, just like that. They teach us to ride motorcycles across building rooftops. Nothing like that at all. But anyway, that always comes to mind when people talk because that was her reaction.
yeah,
She didn't, most people don't know.
yeah. Well, yeah. So really enjoyed this conversation. I think there's a lot of valuable nuggets in here for leaders of all types in various different organizations, about valuing your people, getting curious, listening, asking questions, putting them in a position to be empowered to do the best that they can do. And what I really loved when you said there about allowing them to fail, right? Like creating this space for one of my mentors had this philosophy, if you will, is that create the environment for people to make mistakes okay, not that they're like acceptable to keep repeating making mistakes, but you don't, unless you push the boundary. I mean, that's how we learn, that's how we grow. And there's a book on my shelf there from a gentleman who wrote about this whole concept as kids. Like, that's how we learn, is through making mistakes. And then we become adults and we try not to make any mistakes. And it's like, this is counterproductive in terms of learning and growing and moving forward. So I love that you pointed that out and emphasized that. And I always say leaders of transformation take action. So I'm going to encourage our audience, our listeners, and our viewers to take action on something you learned here. Maybe it is about practicing listening. The next time somebody's sharing something with you, don't be getting ready with your next response, whether it's your spouse or colleague or somebody that works for you. Just listen and be present with them. That's a valuable lesson right there. Or maybe there's something else that a takeaway, encourage you to put it into action, apply it today, because then you start to integrate it. And that's where transformation happens. It's awareness, It's choice. It's making that decision that you're going to make, that whatever that change is. And then there's the follow through. So I encourage you to do that. We'd love to hear your stories. Go on leadersoftransformation.com. Of course, we're all over social media, and we will make sure the show notes, all the information, so you can connect with Jeffrey. You can follow him online, LinkedIn, all of those places. His book, we'll have links there for you so that you can get connected to him. So anyway, thank you for being here. Appreciate you, Jeffrey. Thank you again. And
my great pleasure.
Yeah, it's been such a pleasure. Have a good one.
Thank you.